right, thank you for taking the time to join us today. So we're going to go over the appraisal and property eligibility requirements for USDA Rural Development's single-family housing guaranteed loan program. So the topic of today is appraisals and property requirements. To kick this off, we are going to go over this slide. Let's see, it advanced on me. To kick this off, let's first talk about appraisals. Lenders must ensure the property is eligible for the single-family housing guaranteed loan program. The agency's minimum property requirements serve to protect the borrower's interest, minimize the lender's loss, and reduce the potential risk to the government in the event of liquidation. The lender is responsible for ensuring that the property meets the agency's standard. Okay, we're going to go over those. The lender must ensure that appraisals are completed by a qualified appraiser. Appraisers should be USPAP compliant, and USPAP stands for the Uniform Standards of Professional Appraisal Practice. They must be independent and objective and properly licensed and or certified in the property state where they are performing their appraisals. Appraisal reports must comply with reporting requirements of USPAP and meet the uniform appraisal data set set forth by Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. Appraisers will determine the appropriate form, whether it's the URAR, which is the Fannie Form 1004, or the Freddie Form 70, whether it's a manufactured home appraisal form or the individual condominium unit appraisal form. Okay. Appraisal considerations. USPAP ethics rules do not permit the appraiser to discuss the report with anyone other than the client without the client's permission. So we do recommend the USDA be identified as an intended user with the lender, but that's not required. The market or sales comparison approach is required in all cases, and at least 3 comparable sales should be used unless there's documentation provided to explain why 3 comparable sales could not be obtained. The appraiser will determine if the property or situation would require either the cost approach or the income approach. And appraisals prepared for REO purposes or loan servicing consideration or purposes other than guaranteed purchase or refinance are ineligible for originating a guaranteed loan. A new appraisal with the intent to arrive at an opinion of value for a purchase transaction must be obtained. Okay. Lenders need to ensure that the appraisal photographs are in color and clearly represent the property's condition and quality. This would include any improvements, deterioration, amenities, conditions, and any external factors that may affect the market value or marketability of the property. An appraisal with an interior and exterior inspection must include at least the following photos: the front and rear of the property, street scene with neighboring conditions in some cases, kitchen, main living area, bathrooms, bedrooms, unfinished rooms, and other rooms showing overall condition, including updates and remodeling. And basements. Please note that attic and crawl space photos are no longer required. Do include outbuildings and comparable sales photos. And also it is now allowable for the use of MLS images for comparable sales in place of the original photos taken by the appraiser. Photos are required of listings or pending sales, if those are used. Manufactured homes must have a picture of the HUD data plate and the HUD certification label. For condos, photos of the common areas and shared amenities are no longer required. And last but not least, the comparable sales being used in the valuation analysis must include a picture of at least the front view of the property, that comparable sale. Okay, if there is an appraisal that has been ordered by another lender for the applicant, it can be transferred to the lender who is completing the purchase transaction. So in order to do this, a couple of things must happen. The initial lender must agree to transfer the report. There must be a letter from the initial lender who ordered the report to serve as evidence that the initial lender transferred the report to the lender who was completing the purchase transaction. This letter must be kept in the permanent loan file. The receiving lender must assume all responsibility for the accuracy and integrity of the report. The appraisal must be no older than 180 days at loan closing to be valid. Note that the appraisal transfers can only be between lenders for the same applicant and purchase transaction. So they cannot be transferred between lenders for different applicants. Okay. An appraisal report is initially valid for 180 days from the effective date. Lenders may extend that period with a one-time appraisal update report. This extension may be done even if the original appraisal is already expired. The appraisal is valid for no more than 1 year from the effective date of the original appraisal report at loan closing. Note, this is only used to determine if the property has declined in value since the original appraisal. It is not eligible to support a higher appraised value of the property. Okay. Property flipping. USDA has no rule against an applicant's purchase of a flipped property. The lender is responsible for ensuring that a recently sold property's value is strongly supported by the appraisal report to protect the applicants from possible predatory lending. Our agency review. So USDA reviews all appraisals with Form 1922-15, which is the Administrative Appraisal Review. If the reviewer detects concerns, the report is referred to USDA's regional agency appraiser for a review. If the report is determined inadequate, the lender will be informed of the corrections needed prior to issuing the conditional commitment, prior to USDA issuing the conditional commitment. And the lender is responsible to communicate and initiate corrective action with the appraiser. In remote areas, on tribal lands, or in areas with a lack of market activity, it may be difficult to obtain comparable sales. In these instances, the appraiser may utilize other methods of valuation in compliance with USPAP regulations. Appraisers will explain the exclusion of the sales comparison approach. Okay, it's trivia time, and this time we weren't able to have you participate. You'll just answer these questions to yourself. So, can the cost of an appraisal be reimbursed at closing if it was paid for with a credit card? Good question, you might say. The answer is no. Loan fees paid by the applicant with credit cards or other short-term loans are not reimbursable at closing, simply because it was put on a credit card or other short-term loan type. Okay, next question. Lenders must ensure the appraiser is on USDA's approved lender list. The answer is no. Rural development does not maintain a list of approved appraisers. It is the responsibility of the lender to select qualified appraisers that are properly licensed or certified as appropriate in the state in which the property is located. Next question. The lender discovers significant concerns with an appraisal. A second appraisal can be ordered. And the answer is yes. Rural development does not require that the first appraisal ordered must be utilized for underwriting. The approved lender may order an alternate appraisal if the initial appraisal report is unacceptable. And next, is Form 1004MC required? That's market conditions. Yes or no? The answer is no. The 1004MC is not required. Are as improved appraisals acceptable? Yes or no? As improved? Yes, they are. As improved, or as is, or as improved appraisals are acceptable. Fannie Mae Form 1004D, Freddie Mac Form 442, appraisal update and or completion report may be utilized by the lender to report the completion of a repair and or satisfaction of requirements and conditions noted in the original appraisal report. Alternate methods of ensuring completion of noted repairs, inspection report, and photos of completed work will suffice. All right, now let's move on to our next big topic, which is property eligibility, which is found in Chapter 12 of our handbook, HB 13555. One of the key components of program qualification is determining the eligibility of a property. Location is the primary factor, but other requirements come into play as well. The program allows for most types of available housing in rural America. New or proposed construction is an eligible loan purpose. Existing properties must be single-family residences, but can be stick-built, modular, which we treat just like a stick-built. It can be a townhome, a condominium, or a manufactured home. And existing manufactured homes must have a manufactured date within 20 years of a loan closing. A single unit in a duplex is also allowable when the duplex units are separately deeded. Okay, the property must be predominantly residential in use, character, and appearance. It's a mouthful, but that's pretty much what we go by. Located in rural area as per RD's definition. Must be free of any health or safety concerns before closing and occupancy. And existing dwellings must meet U.S. HUD's Housing and Urban Development Standards, which is HUD Handbook 4000.1. The home purchase must be the borrower's primary residence, and they must occupy the home within 60 days of the loan closing. And it must be adequate and modest as well. We still use the term modest, but what does that mean? In our handbook, modest is defined as a new or existing dwelling that a low or moderate income borrower can afford based on their repayment ability. Property must not be primarily designed for income producing ability. So that's a key factor there. It must not be primarily designed for income producing. Okay. Of course, the primary requirement is location, as we mentioned. The property must always be located in an eligible rural area. The same eligibility site for income eligibility can be used to determine property eligibility. And checking the eligibility is easy with our online tools. You'll go to the eligibility site there on the screen and select property eligibility. Note, be sure to select the tab named Single Family Housing Guaranteed there, and then property eligibility. Okay. The site can be used to enter a specific address to determine if the home is located within an eligible area. There's always a search bar there. You can put the address in there. Or you can simply explore the map, like with any other Google map, and predetermine any potential ineligible areas prior to your client shopping for homes. The dark shaded areas, kind of the peach colored areas here, would indicate areas where the guaranteed loan program could not be utilized. That indicates urban areas, okay, and we're rural only. Sometimes this tool will not be able to locate an address if it's on a new property because, it's been newly constructed. If that happens, you will need to locate the address manually on the map and drop a pin there to show if it is eligible or not. And we recommend including a screenshot with your submission to help the review staff locate the address themselves a little quicker. The other thing to check is if you are getting an ineligible or if it's not locating the property, is to make sure that all input is correct and spelled correctly. You can double check the address at USPS.com for accuracy. And last thing on this screen, I would like to note that the eligibility site only determines if the home is located within an eligible area. It does not determine if the home itself is acceptable. That will be determined by the appraiser. So let's discuss a little about the requirements of the property and the site. The program has no set acreage limits. Whatever size is common for the area, as confirmed by the appraiser, is acceptable. Income producing buildings and land that exist primarily for income producing purposes are prohibited, even if the applicant does not intend to use it for income producing purposes. Accessory dwelling units can also be acceptable. The appraiser will need to determine if the unit represents a second single-family housing dwelling unit. The auxiliary dwelling unit cannot be income producing, as income producing properties are ineligible, just like the primary property on the residence on the property. The agency relies on the appraiser's professional review and opinion of the highest and best use of the property as a primary residence. Multiple parcels can be acceptable if meeting the following criteria. The mortgage provides a valid first lien covering each parcel. Each parcel is conveyed in its entirety and has the same zoning. And the parcels are contiguous unless divided by a road, and the remaining parcel cannot be developed. And the entire property will contain only one dwelling. Okay, pretty straightforward there. So examples of properties that are acceptable: outbuildings such as storage sheds and non-commercial workshops. A garden on the property is fine. Family pets like 1 or 2 horses, those are fine. Townhomes or condos. Single-family homes. A single-family home with old farm buildings that are no longer used for farming. And home-based operations like childcare, product sales, or craft production that do require specific commercial real estate features are not restricted. I think that's supposed to say craft production that do not require specific commercial real estate features are not restricted. Okay. So some examples of properties that are not acceptable are buildings principally used for income producing purposes, barns, silos, commercial greenhouses, or livestock facilities used for the primary production of agricultural, farming, or commercial enterprises are ineligible. However, if these barns, silos, or greenhouses and livestock facilities are no longer in use for commercial operation and will be used for storage only, it does not render the property ineligible. So we're trying to make it make sense. Okay. All right, additional site requirements. Properties with solar panels, dwellings with solar panels are not considered an income producing property by rural development. Site specifications. The site must be contiguous to and have direct access from a street, road, or driveway. Streets and roads must be hard surfaced or all-weather surfaced with public access or permanent recorded easements. Okay, utilities. The site must be supported by adequate utilities and or water and wastewater disposal systems, whether that's public or private. Zoning. The property must comply with applicable zoning requirements and restrictions. If an existing property does not comply with all current zoning ordinances, but is acceptable by the local zoning authority, the appraiser may report the property as legal non-conforming. The appraisal must reflect an adverse effect of the legal non-conforming use on the value and marketability of the property. Okay, inspections. We require lenders to provide the applicant with the flyer form HUD 92564, which is called the For Your Protection Get a Home Inspection. We do require that the property meets the minimum standards of HUD Handbook 4000.1, as previously mentioned. This is certified by a qualified appraiser or home inspector as determined by the lender. Note, to evaluate the physical condition, structure, construction, and mechanical systems, that's in order to do that. Identify items that need to be repaired or replaced and estimate the remaining useful life of the major systems, equipment, structure, and finishes. We do not require termite or pest inspections unless the lender, appraiser, or state law requires it. We do not require thermal inspections for existing dwellings. And lastly, in-ground pools are acceptable. For new construction, must be designed and constructed in accordance with certified plans and specifications, which the new construction and the existing inspections are a whole different balls of wax. Okay, private well and wastewater in Chapter 12 of our handbook. So the distance between the well and the septic must meet either the local or state code or the HUD handbook. The appraiser or lender may require additional inspections. Property must be free of observable evidence of failure of the well or wastewater. Safe water test always required for private wells. And see Chapter 12 of our handbook for additional guidance. So the water test must be no greater than 180 days old at the loan closing. USDA does not provide specific parameters for contaminant levels. And again, it just mentions, go to chapter 12 of the handbook for additional guidance there. Okay. You can finance the purchase of a condominium as long as it is acceptable by HUD, FHA, VA, Fannie Mae, or Freddie guidelines. You will need to document the approval of the condominium on the 1008 form or on the attachment 12B condo certification and retain it in the lender's permanent file. Okay. Existing manufactured homes, they are now eligible nationwide. Manufactured housing provisions, final rule became effective May of a year ago, May the 5th of 2025. Financing an existing manufactured home that is no more than 20 years old at loan closing is now an eligible loan purpose nationwide. Applications for financing existing manufactured homes are now submitted through GUS. There are numerous handbook revisions made with the effective date of this rule. A Gov delivery notice was sent out way back May 5th of last year outlining the changes. Feel free to reach out to our scenario desk, contact provided later, with any questions you may have regarding the rule or the handbook revisions. Other criteria to be considered are the unit must not have been previously installed on a different home site. And the unit must not have had any structural alterations to it since construction in the factory, with the exception of porches, decks, or other structures which were built to engineered designs or were approved and inspected by local code officials. The unit must have a floor area of not less than 400 square feet. That's a kicker, 400 square feet. The unit must have been constructed in conformance with the federal manufactured home construction and safety standards and have both the HUD data plate and the HUD certification label. It must meet all other criteria set forth in the 7 CFR Part 3555 and Handbook 1 3555. Please note that all guaranteed loan applications submitted under this pilot must be manually underwritten. The documents, however, can be uploaded through GUS. A job aid for this type of submission is available in our link library under the Loan Origination tab. I've also provided the link on this slide. Okay. New manufactured homes, they are eligible for USDA guarantees if they are purchased directly from the manufactured home dealer. What is considered new? Well, any units less than 12 months from the manufactured date and never occupied. We can guarantee loans that finance the site development work, the manufactured home purchase, transportation, and setup costs, as well as the purchase of the site if not already owned by the applicant. Note, not eligible are properties sold by third-party builder developers as a spec property already installed on a site. New units must be purchased directly from the dealer. This is one that you will want to check for lender overlays on. Okay. Combination construction of permanent loans. Along with the ability to fund regular new construction projects, we offer a single close construction program to aid in improving the supply of affordable housing in rural America. As the name suggests, it's a single closing, meaning one set of documents to spare extra and unnecessary costs and time. The single close process was designed to protect all participants. Okay. So here's a little bit about that. The benefits of the single close product. Most importantly, USDA's loan note guarantee is issued at the loan closing before the shovel goes into the dirt. The realtor gets paid at the closing and the builder is protected as the build is funded at closing. This means that if something happens with the borrower, the lender will still work with the builder to complete construction as initially approved. Then the lender would sell the home, and if any loss was incurred, and submit their loan note guarantee for reimbursement. This reduces the risk to both the lender and the builder. Immediately after closing, lenders can sell this loan on the secondary market. If it is the securitized version, the borrower will find a more comfortable experience, up to 12 months of payments can be rolled into the loan to avoid having to pay rent plus their new house payments during construction. They can also include the cost of acquiring land or paying off any balance on land already owned. So there are two versions available, the standard interest-only version and the securitized version. There are some great trainings on our link library if you want some more specific and in-depth information on this program. So lenders that have already been doing construction loans for 2 years, you're already eligible to do this. Or if you wanted to have a third-party construction management company step in to help you with the management of that, you can forego the 2 years experience. They have to have at least 2 years experience though. So there's some specifics there, and you don't have to meet any other additional requirements to become eligible if you do have the 2 years experience. Okay. So new dwellings and existing dwellings, we're kind of comparing and contrasting on this slide. New dwellings, again, either they're proposed or under construction or less than 1 year old, must be constructed in accordance with certified plans and specifications, and must meet or exceed the International Energy Conservation Code in effect at the time of construction. The lender must obtain and retain evidence of construction costs, inspection reports, certifications, and builder warranties acceptable to rural development. All evidence must be acceptable to rural development, as mentioned. Existing dwellings are considered to meet these requirements when they are inspected and certified as meeting HUD Handbook 4000.1 requirements for 1 to 4 unit dwellings in accordance with agency guidelines, which means that they must be structurally sound, functionally adequate, in good repair or to be placed in good repair with loan funds, and have adequate and safe electrical, heating, plumbing, water, and wastewater disposal systems. Okay. Another trivia time. So be thinking about these. I'll try to give you just a few seconds in between question and answer. Is it possible to use the guaranteed loan program to finance a tiny home less than 400 square feet? So you heard about 400 square feet a while ago. That was specifically talking about manufactured homes, right? So the answer is yes, it is possible for us to guarantee tiny homes. Rural development guidelines only specify a minimum square footage requirement for manufactured homes. As long as it is not a manufactured home, the square footage itself would not render the property ineligible. The property will need to meet the requirements of HUD Handbook 4000.1, just like all other existing properties, as certified by an appraiser or inspector determined qualified by the lender. And perhaps most importantly, the appraiser will need to be able to find comparable properties to support the value. That's kind of the kicker there, okay? All right, here's a longer question. The subject property is a manufactured home, which the appraisal states was manufactured in April of 2024. Property has never been occupied. Is this considered an existing or new manufactured home for program purposes? Okay, so the answer is it's existing since it was manufactured more than 12 months ago. To be considered a new manufactured home, it must be purchased directly from the dealer, consist of a new unit in stock less than 12 months from manufactured date, and has never been installed or occupied on any other site or location. I was just kind of thinking through this as I was reading that answer. This could say it was manufactured in April of 2025 as well, and it would still be considered existing because it's over 12 months. Okay, so there we go. All right, next question. The subject property includes a secondary lot of 8 acres that is currently rented out and being used to grow crops. Per the current homeowner, they receive $500 a month in rent for that cropland. The applicant indicates they will not continue to rent out this land and use it for farming operations. Is this acceptable? So they're not going to be using it for farm operations or renting it out. The answer in this case is no. Chapter 6 of our handbook states that a qualified property must be predominantly residential in use, character, and appearance. And then Chapter 12 states that the site must not have income-producing land that will be used principally for income-producing purposes. That example, it does not meet that. Vacant land or properties used primarily for agricultural, farming, or commercial enterprises are ineligible. Regardless of the applicant's future intent, the 8 acres of land are currently being rented out and farmed. This appears to be an income-producing property, thus ineligible for the guaranteed program, single-family housing guaranteed loan program. Okay. All righty. Next question or scenario. The applicant is purchasing a newly constructed site and site-built home. The home is located outside the city limits, and the county does not issue building permits or certificates of occupancy. Since the county does not issue these documents, can we proceed without them, without having to obtain alternative documentation? That answer is no. For new dwellings, the lender must obtain evidence of certified plans and specifications, construction inspections, and thermal standards. Chapter 12 provides 3 options for each of these requirements. If the lender is unable to meet the minimum documentation requirements, the loan would be limited to a 90% loan to value. So if it's absolutely no way to meet, to prove that it was constructed by codes, then we can have the applicant put down a 10% down payment and only guarantee, have you finance 90% of that purchase price. So the 3 options we mentioned are evidence of certified plans and specifications. So there's 3 options for each to those requirements. Either the copy of the certification from a qualified individual or organization that the review documents comply with applicable development standards. Or option 2, certificate of occupancy issued by a local jurisdiction. Or option 3, the building permit or equivalent issued by a local jurisdiction. Okay, so that's the first requirement. The second requirement is evidence of construction inspections. So has it been built by those certified plans and specs? So option 1 is certificate of occupancy issued by a local jurisdiction showing that it has performed at least 3 construction phase inspections as identified in section 12.9B of our handbook, and an acceptable 1-year builder's warranty. Or option 2, 3 construction phase inspections performed at each of the phases identified in section 12.9B, and an acceptable 1-year builder's warranty. Or option 3, a final inspection and a 10-year insured builder's warranty. The builder-backed 210 warranty fulfills the 10-year warranty requirements. Okay. And then the third requirement is evidence of thermal standards. Remember earlier we said it's not required for existing properties, but it is required for new construction or new properties. Option 1, you've got 3 options here as well. A qualified registered architect or a qualified registered engineer may certify confirmation with the IECC. Remember, that's the International Energy Conservation Codes standards. Or option 2, the builder may certify confirmation with the IECC standards, the builder themselves. Or option 3, the final inspection or the certificate of occupancy issued by a local jurisdiction that has adopted the thermal codes because they've made sure that the property meets that. Okay, pretty good chart there. I like that in the handbook. Okay, next question scenario. The applicant is purchasing a property that was originally a manufactured home, but was put on a foundation and completely bricked around. Is this still considered a manufactured home? Answer is yes. A manufactured home is built in a factory or warehouse in accordance with building codes set forth by HUD, completely different set of building standards than site-built homes. And regardless of what improvements are made to the home, it will always be a manufactured home and will need to be considered as such. So keep that in mind, okay? Next question, if the appraisal states the subject property will meet HUD Handbook 4001 minimum property standards upon completion of required repairs, is this acceptable? The answer is yes. However, the lender will need to obtain certification from the appraiser that the repairs were completed and all requirements or conditions of the original appraisal report have been satisfied. Okay, pretty straightforward there. Next one is an appraisal with the following statement acceptable? The subject property appears to meet HUD Handbook 4000.1 minimum property requirements. I'm going to reread that and emphasize it a little differently. The subject property appears to meet HUD Handbook 4000.1 minimum property requirements. Okay, you see where I'm going with that? So the answer is no, that's not acceptable. Chapter 12, section 12.9 states the property must be inspected to determine the dwelling meets the current minimum property requirements of the Single Family Housing Policy Handbook 4000.1. Thus, the certification obtained must indicate that the property either does or does not meet these guidelines. Using the term appears does not provide a definitive certification. Okay, so when I emphasize it like that, I think it kind of brings the point across. Okay, next one, does the appraiser need to specifically reference HUD Handbook 4000.1, or can they just simply state the subject property meets HUD Handbook requirements? Okay, the answer, they have to define the HUD Handbook 4000.1 in their certification. It must be specifically referenced, okay? All right, when the local municipality does not have a building inspector, who can complete the final inspection on a new dwelling? Either it's not required if they don't have a building inspector, or the lender must find a qualified alternate. Not sure. The answer is, it is the approved lender's responsibility to find an alternate qualified inspector when the local jurisdiction does not perform construction inspections. So it's got to be inspected one way or the other. Okay. Now, the 10-year warranty does allow for final inspections. So just don't forget that. That is one of the requirements, or one of the alternates in that, the chart we just looked at a while ago. All right, next question. The subject property has an advertising billboard located on it where the owner of the property receives $500 per year for allowing the billboard on the property. Is this acceptable? The answer is maybe. The presence of the billboard would not automatically render the property ineligible. The billboard would need to be addressed in the appraisal and considered in the marketability and value of the property. The lender would need to determine if any zoning restrictions would apply, and any rental income anticipated would need to be included in annual income, and all other applicant and property requirements would still apply. Okay. So hopefully going over these questions, is a training in itself. So when a title commitment reflects an exception for an oil and gas lease, the property is ineligible for USDA. Title commitment shows an exception for oil and gas lease. Does that render the property ineligible? The answer is no. For purchase transactions, rural development does not prohibit mineral, oil, or gas leases. The lender must determine the primary reason for the purchase is a residential residence, and any income earned from these leases must be included in annual income. The lender must confirm the dwelling and site will not be adversely affected, and the property must have adequate homeowners insurance coverage. Okay. All right, that wraps us up on the scenarios and trivia time. So now let's go over the fact that we have several resources available to help you navigate our program. There is a training schedule through the end of the year. Yes, so our training schedule is there on our link training and resource library. And you can view which training events are coming up and also register for them when they become available. The approved lenders list is located under the resource tab also. So you've got the training schedule and eligible or USDA approved lenders. And that's our general list of approved lenders right there by state. We update our guidance regularly. So to ensure that you're using the most current version of any form that you may need, please always pull them from the link training and resource library page, or they can be pulled from GUS. Using the incorrect version can result in delays to your file processing. You can find out about our turn times on files in the link training and resource library. They're with the link there at the top of the page. The common misconception is that this is a slow process when actually we're trying to keep our turn times at 48 hours or less. Anyone, including realtors, can go on the Single Family Housing Guaranteed Lender webpage and see what day we're working on. A website we call the Link Library is a treasure chest of valuable information. It provides tools and resources to assist you in navigating topics like lender approval, loan origination, loan program training, loan closing, and the guaranteed underwriting system and the loan servicing. So that lender training, I think it goes over this in a minute. So let me go back. The lender training tab there has recorded trainings. They're about 10 to 15 minutes long each on most all of our topics. If you want to break those down, you don't have to sit through an hour-long training just to get a topic on, let's say, repayment ratios, for example. So they're all listed there under the lender training tab. It's a pretty cool resource. Okay, users should first look for answers to their questions in the regulation in the handbook. But if you still have a question after reviewing your resources, we're here to help. All policy and regulation questions regarding the topic we just covered should be sent to our Policy Analysis and Communications Branch, PAC, Policy Analysis and Communications Branch. And if you would like to request additional program training, contact our Lender and Partner Activities Branch, on which I serve. And the Lender and Partner Activities Branch, as well as the rest of the Guaranteed team, is here for you. Your success is our goal. There are so many great trainings and documents in the Link Training Resource Library, which can assist you with everything from gaining access to GUS, to submitting an application, to loan servicing. And additionally, if there are specific topics that you feel your organization could benefit from and are not covered in the Link Library, please contact the LPA team for training. You can contact us by email with your training request and questions. Now, for file-specific questions or for questions for a file that has already been submitted to the agency for conditional commitment, please contact the appropriate production team based on the state where the property is. And currently, we only have one production team, so that's at the top of the page. For general scenario or policy regulation questions, please contact the PAC team there. Have a question on policy. It's the last big one of those three bullets there. It's got their email address and our toll-free number, and I'll show you that toll-free number again in just a second. So we're here to help and support you in any way we can. I lied. That phone number is not listed separately. So that phone number, the toll-free number, is 833-314-0168. And for the PAC team, for questions on policy and your particular scenario, hit extension 4. Okay, so that will, you can actually talk to us about that, kind of hash out all the details. And you may want to follow up with an email too, so that you have it in writing. Okay. All right. At the bottom of the web page, there's a list of resource links like the regulation, the handbook, and how to sign up to get our updates from Gov Delivery. Our PAC team puts this document together, and they may update it often. It has a lot of really great and relevant questions to provide clarity on certain topics. That's our FAQs, of course, I'm speaking of. And the link to the handbook is here. A couple of notes to mention. Always be sure to open the correct handbook for the Guaranteed Housing Program, which is Handbook 13555, not the 3550 handbook. They're very similar in number, but that's the handbook for our direct loan program for low and very low applicants, okay? Which is different in a lot of different ways. Also, now when you click on the handbook link, it opens the consolidated version, which means it no longer opens chapter by chapter. And here, let me show you. So now when you click on the handbook, there is a download button. It actually just opens it on your browser. It doesn't download it to your computer. You still have to click the button download though. Okay, the download button. So, so I thought this was worth mentioning. And remember to use Control F. That's how to find a particular phrase or topic that you're wanting to find within the handbook. And with that, we are done for the day. And we hope that you found this helpful, and we hope to see you on next month's training. So with that, I think we can give you back about 10 minutes of your day. And thank you, and have a great day, everybody. Call us if you need us. Thanks. Bye-bye.